Hello everyone, how are you doing?
Hello, sir. Yeah.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, hope you are doing good.
Good.
Okay, so as I said yesterday, we have done with the collection part, and I believe you guys have done some kind of practice and exercises, the link which I have shared with you yesterday. What is the difference between tree set and tree map? Anyone can answer. Difference between tree set and tree map.
Anything map always uses the key value pairs, while the tree set, so the tree set uses trees for storing elements or storing objects, and it only has unique values. It always has unique values, and it is in ascending order. So the tree map also now uses the key value pairs for storing objects.
Okay. Basically, tree set and tree map. The difference over here is the tree set doesn't allow duplicate values. It implement the set interface, and by default tree set follow the ascending order to display the list of object or elements. Tree map is basically used to store key value pairs, and each value is associated with its key, and tree map basically follow same ascending order, but the keys are going to written in the ascending order. Set we have only value, but tree map we have both key and values, right? So in tree map, all the values, all the key value pairs is going to be written ascending order based on the key. That means every key is going to written in the ascending order. Okay. What is the use of final keyword? Shaman.
So the final keyword we use to get the information associated to that particular information. For example, if we're using to to track an object, we use that key number or key ID to get the information related to that object.
Okay. Final keyword is used for final class, final variables, and final method. Final keyword is used for final class, final variables, and final method. Final variables is like constant variables. We cannot change the value once we initialize. Final method we cannot override, and the final class cannot be extended by any subclasses. Difference between constructor and method. Suraj, tell me. Suraj, difference between method and constructor. Hello, can you hear me? Rene,
Hello.
Yes.
yes, tell me, Suraj, difference between method and constructor.
Method is something that you declare in a class. That you like.
Okay,
So a method, it's like a statement with. You can have like a return statement, right? Construction is to like you initialize the object in your class,
okay,
and then inside the method you have like a Java code that you can use to execute whatever you want to execute, like a code. Does it make sense?
okay. Rene, what is your answer?
Okay, my answer is the difference between a constructor and a method. A constructor, for example, the class has the same name as the class,
Okay,
while the method does not need to have the same class name. Two, a constructor does not have a return, forgotten what you call it, a return statement, but the method may or may not have a return. Number three, a constructor is used to initialize objects, while a method is used to express the behavior of an object. I think there's a fourth difference I'm trying to remember. It has to do with
okay. Miran, what is your answer? Miran, Miran, can you hear me?
Yeah, it is the same as Ren's.
Why you
Yeah.
are trying to join in two different laptop? I can see two names.
Yeah, I can't listen. So
Remove
many.
one. Join with only one laptop, not multiple.
Okay.
Because sometimes it makes me confused as well. Remove one.
Can I try?
Yes, Simon, go ahead.
I think like Rina said, the force difference is the constructor, it invokes implicitly, and then the method invokes explicitly.
Okay.
And then the constructor must be the same name as the class, while the method may or may not be the same name as the class.
Yes, correct. Constructor name should be the same name of the class name. Method name may or may not. Okay. Constructor should not have any return type, but method must have a return type. Constructor should be invoked implicitly the moment you create object, but method we need to call explicitly. Okay. Next step. Difference between array list and linked list. Chennai.
Array list it gives you a variety of options when you call it up. but linked list is not as array list, especially when we use interfaces.
Okay. Vinita, what is your answer?
Yes, sir. Here my answer, the difference between the array list and linked list. The first one, whenever we are storing the elements in the array list, so it stores the elements like a dynamic array, as compared to the linked list. Whenever the elements are stored in the form of a double linked list, that means the node, there is a structure. It's like a node and the previous node. That means we have to store the data in the form of a node structure. The second difference, basically the array list implemented the list interface, but whenever we are working with the linked list, so we basically use the list interface as well as the queue interface. And third difference, whenever we are in array list, whenever we do the operations like insertion, deletion, or the storage, that means how we store and access the data, so it's more useful as compared to the linked list. But in the linked list, we can do the faster manipulation operations in the linked list.
Yes.
Yeah.
Both array list and linked list, they do implement list interface. So array list only implement list, but linked list implement both list and as well as queue. So obviously there will be some new features. Now, array list is basically used to faster addition and faster retrieve. And linked list is basically used for frequent manipulations. Array list internally use array to keep managing all the list of object or elements. Linked list internally use double linked list. Linked list internally use double linked list node structure to keep maintain each and every elements they are, you know, managed in a node structure. So each elements we remove, so immediately it's going to keep changing the its reference that we store the elements. Okay, so that's the reasons for frequent manipulations as compared to array list, linked list is a better options. Okay, what is the difference between hash set and linked hash set?
Excuse me, sir.
Chennai.
Is array list allow homogeneous or heterogeneous?
Sorry.
Array list,
Okay.
does it allow homogeneous or heterogeneous to pass it?
I didn't get your questions. What is homogeneous?
No, we say linked list and array list difference, right? Does the linked list allow heterogeneous objects or heterogeneous objects?
You mean objects that are of different data types?
No,
Wait,
my
what are you talking
question is, we were talking about the array list and the linked list, right? So I wasn't sure if heterogeneous objects are allowed in linked list or array list.
Array list basically allow both heterogeneous and homogeneous, both it allow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it allow both.
Okay.
Now my question is difference between hash set and linked hash set.
Got it now.
What is the difference? Hash set, linked hash set.
Can I answer it?
Yeah, please go ahead, have it.
Okay. Hash set is it is no insertion order. When we said in linked hash set, we maintain insertion order.
Yes, perfect answer. Thank you.
You're
So
welcome.
hash set basically doesn't follow any order. Okay, but linked hash set follow the insertion order. The way you insert same order, you will get the values. Perfect. Okay. What is the difference between interface and abstract class? Miran. Miran, can you hear me? Shayman, tell me.
Can I
Yes.
tell?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. When we say interface, it is fully abstracted.
Okay.
When we say in abstract, the class could be abstract or the method, either one. I mean, it's not fully abstracted. But when we say interface, I mean, all of them, they are the method and the class part is fully abstracted.
Can sir?
Yes.
Can you tell me, sir?
Yes.
Yeah. In abstract class, we can declare the class with the help of an abstract keyword. And in the interface, we can create the interface with the keyword of interface. The second difference, the abstract class contains the abstract methods always along with the non-abstract methods. But in an interface, we only that means we only declare the abstract methods through abstract class. That means we cannot, the abstract class doesn't support the multiple inheritance, but the interface supports the multiple inheritance. The next difference, through the abstract class, we can extend the another Java class. As compared to the interface, we can extend the another interface. So this is the difference.
Yes. Abstract class contains both abstract and non-abstract methods. So we use abstract class for partial abstraction. An interface, you can have only abstract methods. So it's for fully abstractions.
Excuse me, sir. We can initialize object, we can, yeah, initialize
We
objects in
cannot,
the
yes,
abstract
we
class,
cannot,
or we can,
we cannot create object for either abstract class or interface. We cannot create.
okay,
Because abstract class and interface are basically used for template, right? So that's why you are not going to create any object for that. Instead of we create an object for abstract class or interface, we create for the subclasses. We create for the subclasses which extend the abstract class, or we
Yeah.
create the object for the class which implement the interfaces. For that, we need to create an instance. Okay, now let's move forward. The next part. Exception handling. That is one of the very interesting and most important topics as well, because we write the code as a developer. Just give me a second. As a developer, day in or day out, responsible is what writing the code and developing some application. But who knows that these codes are working perfect as per our requirement, right? So maybe you can expect some kind of an exceptions that programs, if something goes wrong in the code that you have written while you develop some application or some kind of the project that you develop, right? So exception is a problem that arises during the exception of the program. When an exception occurs, that normal flow of the program is going to disturb, and then the program terminates abnormally. If something is going wrong, then the program is not able to produce the perfect output, the expected output. For what reason? You have spent some timing, we are writing the lines of code, right? When something is going wrong, the normal flow of the program is going to disturb. So there are basically two stages of every program. One is a normal flow and other one is abnormal flow. Normal flow is something we are getting the output, the application is producing the same output, what region we have written the lines of code. And abnormal is something where is something going wrong in my code and the program is not able to produce the expected output. For what reason we have written the lines of code. Exception is something is basically a problem that arises during the execution of program. When exception is going to occur, and if something is going wrong, the normal flow of the program is going to disturb to my application and the program is basically terminates abnormally. We can see that sometimes my program is executed but not fully executed. It's partially executed in the sense what I can see only 40 or 50% of the output and rest of the part is not showing, right? So that means the application has terminated and this program has not been showing any such output what regions we have written the code. So exception handling is just a mechanism to handle such a runtime errors. Handle runtime errors. Just try to understand that terminology. Handling runtime errors. Okay, why only runtime errors? Because whenever you are writing some code by using any IDE, Eclipse, IntelliJ IDEA, NetBeans, there are many different IDE we use, but mostly industry they use Eclipse only. So that's the reason we are doing the practice in the Eclipse software. We create a project folder, we create a class, we writing the coding, we writing the many number of classes, we're writing the logic inside the classes, how the application has to be work, how the application has to perform the actions, how the method has to do some kind of some task as per our business requirement. We write a list of functionality, right? So here whenever is something going wrong while we are writing the code, maybe sometimes by known or unknown, we are doing some mistake, a silly mistake, something called forgetting put the semicolons, forgetting put the close braces or the open braces. Sometimes you are writing unidentified data types, unidentified method which is not there, and the IDE is telling us to, hey, this is not the right way that you have done and you need to fix the error, right? So what you do then and there, you are able to fix, you are able to check it out where it is going wrong and you are able to fix out. Let me tell you a very simple example that without importing the util packages, when I'm trying to declare the scanner class, it's giving me a compilation error then and there and telling that, hey developer, you have declared this scanner class, but you never imported that specification of the packages that is belong to the classes, right? So I can understand that there and there I can just able to import the packages that belongs to the scanner. All right. So that error, something we call as a compilation error, compile time error, or compile time exceptions. So it is not a big headache for any developer to handle such a compile time exception, right? Because we can check then and there, we can fix it out, right? We know how to use this IDE to fix such compilation exception. So then what is the main challenges that developers they are facing here? The main challenges the developer are facing is basically to handle the runtime errors. What do you mean by runtime errors? A runtime error is something rather than they do raise in the compilation time, they do make disturbance during your program runtime, your program executions. That means the logic behind the functionality, the application logic you have written inside the classes, something is going wrong, right? And that is not a part of your compilation. That is not a part of your Java compiler to fix to fix this error or the exception, right? The compilation is basically helps to the developer to fix only when you do such kind of a syntactically programmatic error. But in some cases, by known or unknown, you have written the code where you have some part of a logically exception or a logical errors. So that is not going to help by your compilation, right? So where the developer are facing the challenges, and that is the main reason why the Java has introduced this exception handling mechanism. So the reason why this exception handling we use as a developer is basically to fix runtime error, especially runtime error. If I'm not going to handle the runtime error, then what will happen? If I'm not going to handle this runtime error, then what will happen? The program will be terminated. The application is going to be terminated. Some situation in which the exception can occur whenever the user is entering some invalid data. When you are trying to opening a file which is not existing, there may be some network connection problem, or maybe some number format exception. Number format exception, nothing but let's say in integer variables, I'm trying to insert string. In integer variables, I'm trying to store the string values. In character variables, I'm trying to store the float values. Is it possible? Not at all, right? So that we call as a number format exceptions. That value is not proper formatted variables where you want to insert the data. So these are some common exception that you basically have an experience with your runtime error, right? User entering invalid data, opening a non-existing file. Entering invalid data means what? You are trying to withdraw some money and the application is asking enter the password, your PIN number. Instead of you enter 4-digit as a PIN number, you have a enter your name or some other string values, right? That is not a valid data. Or maybe instead of 4-digit, you have enter 6-digit. That is not a valid data, right? So in such a scenario where you have an experience of your runtime exceptions. All the exception, as I told you, has classified into 3 different specifications: checked exception, unchecked exception, and errors. A checked exception is an exception that occurs at the compile time. These are also called as a compile time exceptions. Okay, so it occurs during the compilation of the code. During the compilation means when you compile the code, these exceptions are going to be raised, and we can check then and there. You can fix it out, as I said before. But the main challenges the developer have is to fix the unchecked exception. We called as the runtime exception, because those exceptions are occurring during the runtime of the code. An unchecked exception is an exception that occurs at the time of execution. These are also called as a runtime exception. These are also called as a runtime exceptions. Errors. These are not exception at all, but problems that arise beyond the control of the user of the programmer. As a developer, we can do something. We can fix the checked exception. We can fix the unchecked exception, because these are the related to the coding. These are related to the some logically mistake you made. These are the exceptions related the syntactically that I made mistake while writing the code. So as a developer, I am full aware of that, how I can able to fix, and I can make my how I can make my application under the control. But comes to the errors. Errors are not related at all my coding, not related to my business logic coding. So it is completely a different part of it. It's completely a different scenario. So these are not exception at all, but problems that arise beyond the control of the user of the programmer. There is something called out of memory error. What else I can do, which is related to my memory structure, which is related to my RAM, or maybe something called my hard disk, right? That memory is not sufficient. I cannot do anything else. Virtual machine error. Maybe there is something issue with my JRE, my Java runtime error file missing. Maybe some library is deleted, or something JR is not installed full properly. So virtual machine is not there in my machines. What else I can do, right? So which is not related to the coding, which is related to file missing, which is related to my hardware platform issues, where as a developer I cannot do anything else, right? So I can able to fix only if that it is related to the checked or unchecked exceptions. This is the exception hierarchy. We have a object class, we know that, which is a super class of all the class, we know it. We have a throwable class. Throwable class is basically the subclass of the object class. Yes. Throwable class have a two subclasses. One is errors and the other one is exceptions. Okay, fine. And exception will have a two subclasses. One is a runtime exception class and the other one is a other exception, some other related exceptions here. Okay, that means in this diagram, in this picture, we come to the conclusion the runtime exception is the subclass of the exception class, and exception class subclass is exception class subclass is exception class superclass is a throwable class. Exception class superclass is a throwable class here. Okay, so java.lang packages is the default package for all the Java application that has introduced all the exception class which you are going to use. Means if you are going to follow this exception handling mechanism, if you don't want to terminate your application, if you want that your application should be execute in the normal conditions, if something is going to be terminated, then you want to handle it very smoothly. You no need to import any packages, because all the exception handling technical terminology in Java is basically introduce your default package, which is a java.lang packages. That's a very clear part here. Now, okay. Now, exception class is the subclass of the throwable class, and runtime exception, runtime exception superclass is the exception class. So exception superclass is throwable, runtime exception superclass is the exception class. Clear? Now the question is coming, how to handle the exceptions? How can I handle the exception here? As you said, the exception handling mechanism is there, introduced by Java, which is protect our code, which is going to help to terminate our application's code, right? So how we can apply in the programmatic way to handle such exceptions? Java has introduced some keywords that we can use to handle our exception. So what are the Java keyword we use? Try, catch, throw, throws, and finally. Or I can say try, catch, finally, throw, and throws. There are two different way of structure in exception handling mechanism to to handle the exception of the code. The main reason we handle this exception is what? To protect our code. I want to protect my code. By known or unknown, I have written some code, some logic. Maybe there might be some mistake, right? Because I'm not a robot. I cannot give you the 100% guarantee. The application which I have developed, the code which I have written, it is 100% correct. You cannot give the guarantee, but my exception handling concept mechanism can give you the guarantee. If something is going to wrong, then it can tell you that yes, hey developer, these lines of code you have written there is something mistake. If I'm not going to handle this exception, then what will happen? My application will terminate. Yes, my application will terminate. That means if I have written 20 lines of code, assume a small example, I have written 20 lines of code, and in the line number 12, there is some exception because of some logical stuff that I made a mistake of. Okay, by mistake, I have written some lines of code where there is some logically mistake. So what will happen? Line number 1 to 10, it will execute. From 11, nothing will be executed. Oh my God, that's a big mistake. Because of one lines of error, why all the from line number 11, why all the line of the code has to skip because of the one single line error? That was the challenges. That is the main reason why Java has introduced this exception handling concept, so that you as a developer, you can figure out where exactly is going wrong. You can able to fix it out, and your application will be smoothly running, right? So that is the whole idea here. So whatever the code you want to protect, you have to write inside the try block. whatever the code you wanted to test, you want to try whether it is correct or wrong. I cannot give 100% correct. I'm not sure that whether this logic, the code which I have written is 100% correct. No problem. Your program can test. Your program can tell you whether it is correct or wrong. Just put all this code in the try block. Just put all this code in the try block. Okay, so we can see here the try block, it is used to enclose the code that might throw an exception. It must be used within the method. Yeah, that's more important. Try always use inside any method. Maybe you can write the try block inside your main method or maybe some other method, but it should be declared always inside a method only. Next is the catch block. It is used to handle the exception. It must be used after the try block only. It involves declaring the types of exception that you are trying to catch. What type of exception that you are going to catch? I don't know what type of exception it is going to catch. No problem. Then you can call your super class of your runtime exception class. Because this try catch mechanism, this try catch, you are going to use this keyword in Java, especially to handle the runtime exception. If you don't know what type of runtime exception is going to be raised because of some logical error in the try block, no matter. You just call your super class of your runtime exception class. That is the exception class. So in the catch, you need to specify any one of the exception name with the reference. That reference will tell you where exactly is going wrong, where exactly you made a mistake. Right? So catch block should be followed by the try block. Always the catch block should be followed by the catch block. Now, let me show you some piece of code here. I'm not handling any exception because you should know if I'm not going to handle exception, what exactly the problem, where exactly is going to be issue here. You need to understand that. So we can see I have a class, public class, test try catch 1. I have a method, integer data is equal to 50 divided by 0. And then I'm trying to print the rest of the code. Is there any try catch block? No try catch block. I'm not going to handle here. Let's see what's going to happen. Class, okay, perfect. Main method, okay, perfect. Inside the main method, what I'm trying to do, I want to initialize the value 50 divided by 0 to my data variables. Integer data is equal to 50 divided by 0. Is that possible? Not possible. We cannot divide any number with 0. We cannot divide any number by 0. That it is a exceptions, means it's not possible. You cannot do it in the programmatic way. That means, is it a compilation error or runtime errors? Syntactically it is a correct only. Yes, there is nothing wrong. That means it is a runtime errors only. Okay, it is a runtime errors because logically it is a corrector. Syntactically logically it is not a corrector. Syntactically it is a corrector. There is no syntax error. If you look into the syntax, we can write this, not a problem. But logically, the programmatic way, logically it is a wrong, right? So definitely there is going to raise an exception. Okay, so when the exception is going to raise in the line number 3, rest of the code will not be executed. That is what I'm trying to say. And you can see the output here below. Exception in thread main java.lang arithmetic exception when because you are trying to divide by 0. Rest of the code not going to execute. Why? Because before the line exception is raised. But what is the problem here? My error is in the line number 3, right? So 4, 5, 6, 7 has to be executed. Yes, if it will execute if you'll handle the exception. Did you handle the exception here? No, I have not handled here. Then don't expect the further output. That means what we'll call in certain scenario, program has terminated. Program has terminated, right? So if you will put within the try block, if you write integer data is equal to 50 divided by 0. If you will write within the try block, if you write integer data is equal to 50 divided by 0, then your program is safe. Rest of the code will be executed. Yes, rest of the code will be executed. These are solutions. This is the solution here. Now I can see the rest of the code. Yes, I can see the rest of the code. Within the try block, I have written integer data is equal to 50 divided by 0. Same thing as you discussed before. There is a catch block. Yes. If something goes wrong in the try block, then only there is a job for catch block. What the catch block is telling, the catch block is designed to catch any exception related to arithmetic exception. That means if any arithmetic exception happen in the try block, then I will catch it and I will tell you. I will describe the error. So that's why I have created a reference for the arithmetic exception. What is the arithmetic exception? Arithmetic exception is one of the runtime exception class. E is the reference of the class. But I didn't write this arithmetic exception class. No, you don't need to write it. This class is already introduced by Java.lang packages. It is an inbuilt class introduced by Java to handle such a runtime exceptions here. If something goes wrong in the try block, then it will pass to the catch block. Then catch block will say, is it an arithmetic exception? Say, if yes, no problem. The exception reference E will tell you, the developer, hey developer, this is what you made a mistake of. You have to fix it. And it will keep continue to execute rest of the code. That's what I can see here. Before the rest of the code has not executed. Why? Because I have not handled this exception handling mechanism. I didn't use a try catch block. But here I have used the try catch block. That means one thing, we come to the conclusion here. Exception handling is basically will help us to find out the exception only wherever it is. Still, my program will keep continue to execute. It is not going to terminate the application because of the single line of errors. It will skip only the lines and it will help us where and how to fix the error, but my rest of the code will be executed, so that as a developer I can figure out where exactly is going wrong and how to fix it out. So it's telling that exception in thread main. That means my main method has throw this exception. What type of exception it is? Arithmetic exception, and I'm trying to divide it by 0. That means it says something wrong in the try block, but the rest of the code is correct. So it is going to keep continue. Can I write multiple catch block for a single try to handle a different exception? I don't want to handle only one exception, because who knows that in a try block there could be a multiple exception also. So it is possible. Can I handle multiple exception also? Obviously, we can handle. In one try block there could be a multiple catch block also. There could be a multiple catch blocks. Depends on the scenario. That specific catch block is responsible to catch it. If it is arithmetic exception, okay, I have a first catch block is responsible to catch it. If it is array index out of bound exceptions, okay, there is also responsible for my another runtime exception class which is going to handle. Now, as a developer, I just want to know what are the common exception that we basically face during the development of the code, during the development of the application. What are the common scenario of the exception that basically we do face in the real-time environment? Let's go ahead and see. Some common subclasses of exception are subclasses of exception. What we have discussed before. Your runtime exception class is a subclass of your exception class. And what is the which class is superclass of your exception class? Which class is superclass of your exception class? Shaman. Which is the superclass of your exception class?
Throwable class, sir.
Yes, throwable class is superclass of your exception class. That means your concentration is not here somewhere. Just a few minutes back, I said this is the exception hierarchy you have to remember. You can see exception class, super class is what? Throwable class. Runtime exception, super class is what? Exception class. That's what I'm trying to say here. Some subclass of your exception class. Arithmetic exception, it is a runtime exception class. Null pointer exception also, it is a part of a runtime exception class. So when you will get a arithmetic exception, if you divided any number by 0, there occurs an arithmetic exceptions. Yes. Null pointer exception, if you have null values in any variables performing any operations by the variables, occurs a null pointer exception. For example, string s is equal to null. I'm trying to print the length of the string. String s is equal to null. I'm trying to print the length. What I will get? Null pointer, because it contains no values. It's contained null. Array index out of bound exception. Yes, this is also one of the runtime exception class. This is also one of the runtime exception class. If you are inserting any value in the wrong index, it would result array index out of bound exception. So integer a array, that is array name equal to new integer 5. That means what is my array size here? 5 here. Okay. My array size is 5. I'm trying to insert the value in 10 index. How it is possible? When I'm creating an array, the size of array is 5. That means it will reserve 0 to 4 to insert the values. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We know in array index will start from 0. So I have a reserved index 0 to 4. But where I'm going to inserting the value array index of 10, that's not possible. So definitely I will get an array index out of bounds exception here. Next is the number format exceptions. The wrong formatting of any value may occur, number format exception. String s is equal to abc, integer I is equal to integer dot % of s. How can I store the string value into integer? Means I'm trying to converting the string value into integer. ParseInt is a method of a wrapper class which is converting string to integer. Is it possible? Not possible. How can I convert string to integer? It's not possible. So where you will get a number format exception? It's not possible. These are the some common exception. These are some common runtime exception that we have a experience while you writing the code on your daily job task. I'm going to sending you these materials right away. Just give me a moment. Yes, I have shared this materials. Just download it and open. Whatever the program you can see there. Whatever the program you can see there, just do it practice. And from here we'll continue tomorrow. We'll see some practical code exception handling and we'll finish it tomorrow. Clear for everyone?
I have a question.
What is your questions?
Where did you share the file? I cannot see in the chat.
I shared in the chat. Zoom chat, I have already sent. Did you download this, Vinita?
Yes, sir, I downloaded it.
whatever the program, the small piece of program is there, just try to do practice on your Eclipse, and further few programs we will discuss tomorrow. Some new examples I will show you practically.
Sir, I have one question.
Yes.
Yeah, in the last slide, it's related to the parse int method, but instead of a string, if you mention the double, so is it possible to convert the double into the integer with the help of parse int?
Double have a bigger size of values.
Okay.
Maybe it's not possible. You can try if it's possible or not.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. See you tomorrow. Bye. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day. Bye.